To pray, there's no angels where I go. Only pieces that are broken, scattered dreams across the floor. I'm home.
Alrighty, hello everybody. This is Kirusho here. Now, whenever we last left off, it has been a bit of time. Now, Midoriya, he talked with Eto Yoshimura. And well, yeah. He met her, talked with her, then had to briefly escape with her from the CCG. If she didn't have a plan, then yikes, they probably would have been dead. However, she's a bit too convincing. Now, with that being said, it has been a little bit of time, over a month. And Midoriya, him and Origiri Tree have been working together. Now, it has been hard to do this. Keeping the organization together was difficult. Midoriya had to listen some of the white suits complain. A lot of them showed resentment towards Origiri. Others simply didn't want to be here. However, they weren't really just going to walk away. They dealt with it. The boss does know what is best, even if it means coming back to a branch or organization that they left. Now, the CCG has been put on a bit of the run, you can say. They have been fighting against Origiri Tree and the White Suits. However, with one organization getting more organized and working together with the other organization that they've been fighting against, that was a very big problem. And yikes. In this amount of time, Midoriya and everyone else has been breaking into Ghoul prisons and testing out more and more of their own abilities against each other. Midoriya has learned a bit of things from training with and fighting against some other members of Origiri, and they were willing to teach him things in exchange for information about him. They want to learn more about Midoriya. They want to know exactly where his mother is from and where he is from, understanding him as a whole person. Midoriya does give up a little bit of information, but tries to keep some of it to himself. When asked about the multiple Kagenes, he has no answer. He has a tail, the one directly on the back of his waist, and then the pair of wings, which are a bit lower on his back than they should be. The Ukaku. Now, with that being said, today is different. Midoriya and everyone else, they are blasting their way through a CCG warehouse and trying to find exactly what they are here for. The CCG deployed some of their men in the Ukaku suits, I believe it's called. Some of them tweaked and enhanced. As Midoriya and everyone else, they are jumping around, flying through the air and blasting off attacks, as Eto is in her giant mode, using her own Kakuja, as she's jumping around throughout the warehouse, swatting and smashing people into large shipping containers. Whenever they do all try to gang up on her and attack her, they successfully slice through part of her left arm, up towards the back of her armpit, on the Kakuja. And a lot of them do begin to actually try and take her down, somewhat performing a very coordinated attack. Chopping off one of the legs to this thing, the left arm, and then beginning to try and go for the center mass. Blow it away with hollow explosives. Now, whenever they do open the chest cavity and find that the ghoul is not there, they focus their attention towards the head. To which Eto immediately swats a man out of her face, who is flying directly at her, ripping the man in two and then simply tossing him at his allies, as hard as she can. Now, the man smashed into both of his allies, and Eto then begins to simply charge to them, throwing a large container at them as, whenever it does hit them all, the contents of it begin to explode. Now, whenever that does happen, everyone around the warehouse gets sent flying. And this alerts the CCG, and the Hero organization, and the police, as everyone else does get out of there. And Eto begins to try and hide herself, quickly destroying this Kakuja, and simply beginning to evacuate. They have everything they've needed. And they release some of the live test subjects the CCG had put here. The CCG put some people in some specialized restraints. Every few hours or so, they are apparently injected with something that will suppress their RC cells. It's a lot like the gas that they use to suppress school abilities. Now, after they cut everyone loose, Midoriya actually does begin to try and think about this. They need to get not just more people. He understands what they're doing is good, but they've mostly just been helping out the ghouls. That one side of their species. They need to start helping out the humans. Sure, they've done good deeds here and there, catching the occasional purse snatcher. However, one thing he doesn't like about Origiri Tree, they don't conduct themselves to a moral standpoint, like he does. They will do whatever they want, really. If there were two people standing in a situation, a man and a woman, and the man had a gun pointed at the woman, Midoriya would take down the man. That would be the first thing he does, and the woman would be let go. She would be free. Origiri would take down the man, then simply capture the woman. Use both of them as a food source. They don't really care. That's the whole problem. Now, Midoriya does bring this up to Eto, telling her that they need to be doing better out there. To which she would simply respond by saying that better isn't really all that good. You think that we can simply just go out there and help humans. We can't. If we do, we'll probably be chocked full of hollows. Then, what happens? They take us in, put us in a prison, and dissect us. Like little guinea pigs. You have been dissected before, so you know simply that is not an option. Throw away that little moral code, she says as she walks towards him, and gets on her tippy toes, as she stands inches away from Midoriya's face, saying that that little code will get him killed. Someone will abuse it one day. And if he stops conducting himself that way, then they can actually talk properly before just pushing back on him and walking away. Now, with that being said, a bit of time does pass by. And, well, surprise, surprise, Midoriya is hopping through a city. And he actually does hear something on the news. As he actually does slow down and stay low on the rooftops. Looking into the city square, there is a TV playing. Now, as Midoriya, he listens in, hearing about the situation. From what he can see, the TV is talking about some place in the forest. and there are firefighters in the background trying to tackle the fires, as it is talking about the multiple students of Class 1A that have gone missing, presumed to be taken by villains. And it isn't a pretty sight, as you do have Bakugo Katsuki and Tokoyami, along with the possibility of two others, as their pictures pop up on screen. Midoriya hearing that, as it then begins to talk about the possibility of another student being a ghoul, since there were ghouls here and they were looking for somebody. It is unclear at this point. However, we will give you further updates as the story progresses. Now, that sort of shocks Midoriya, as he simply tries to make a phone call. He calls Momo. And, well, after the sixth attempt, she finally answers, trying to talk to Midori about what is going on. As she goes on, stating that she messed up. She messed up big time. Midoriya asks her exactly where she is, to which she goes on saying that she's already called her father, and lets him know the situation. Now, let us cut a bit backwards in time. Momo Yaoyorozu. Earlier tonight, she was having a bit of a craving, and she herself has been put through a bit of agony, as you can call it. Her people were quite aware of her going away on these 2 weeks. And yeah, it's not going to be easy. Especially since you're basically camping. And you have to share a tent sometimes. Her being able to control her hunger and her cravings, yeah, that's easy. And up to a certain point. Whenever she can't really go off on her own and vomit up the human food. And then try to meet up with someone who usually tries to sneak her some from her manor. Yeah, that only worked up until before the first week ended. Her going away in the forest all alone, that got someone's attention. And she eventually had to stop. She went an entire week without food. And when the villains attacked, yeah. Now, one thing I am changing about this event. Muscular was not there. That will come up later. He had a bit of better things to do. Now, whenever they were attacked, Momo tried to jump into action and tried to help out. However, whenever she did encounter Toga, the villain who talks about blood, yeah, that's where things got iffy. Toga has already absorbed some of Ochako's blood, and in fact, she actually did get quite a bit of Asui's. Whenever Momo did jump in, Toga tried to slash at her and poke at her with this stick, or the metal tube, to which she quickly threw it out of the way. Luckily, she smacked it out of her hand and it poked itself into a tree. She then made quick work by simply ripping the tank off of her back. However, Toga pulled back on it, since it was on a harness. And she ripped the tank open. And it splattered all across her face and her body. As her eyes turned, Toga, in shock, looking up to see that. Before she can even throw out her hand and say Ghoul, Momo lunged forwards. And, before her classmates' eyes, made quick work of this girl. She ripped Toga apart and feasted. Now, Momo, she was displeased with herself for what she did. And Ochako and Asui, they lost quite a bit of blood, barely able to see out in front of themselves, as Momo simply just ran off. As you do have the 8 arms guy, or the Dupla arms, him stumbling across the situation not too later. In fact, as soon as Momo ran off, he actually ran into the situation, seeing the bloody footprints going off in a direction, and trying to follow them after making sure his classmates were okay. Eventually, he found Momo climbing up of a cliff. In fact, she actually just jumped. She leaped over it. Something a normal person couldn't do, even with a quirk like hers. Before he did see a red glow whenever she looked down. Now, with that being said, let's cut back to Midoriya. He has heard the full story, and he is asking about Bakugo, to which she just says that she doesn't know. She left as soon as she could. And if anything's wrong with Bakugo or happened to Bakugo, then she's in the custody of the villains. I don't know. The manor is already getting packed up, and we're already headed to the underground. I'm scared. It's gonna be okay. Listen to me. I need to meet you somewhere. Can you do that? Yeah, but it's just I don't know what to do. I had to take off my bracelet. Bracelet? Yeah. They they gave us bracelets. It's sort of weird to explain. After the USJ, the heroes they thought that we might encounter something similar here. And well, Mr. Nezu got us something in particular. The bracelets that I had to take off was a tracker. It was tracking my location. I ripped it off somewhere around 2 miles back. Okay, and where are you now? Well, I had to jump into the river. After that, I think I can, well, wait for a couple of minutes, or possibly an hour. Someone's gonna be coming by and picking me up. Whenever they do get here, then we can meet up, talk with each other, okay? Alright. Well, do you think that you can get me information on that bracelet? I don't know. I could possibly give you what they're called. They do have numbers on them, I do know that. Okay. Well, make a few phone calls, and we'll get Bakugo back. Then I'll come meet you, okay? Alright. Izuku, thank you. I didn't want this to happen. It's just the girl, I felt so hungry. Please, I understand. Like you said, starving is hell, and the worst thing a ghoul can go through. So listen, I'm gonna come find you. We're gonna figure all this out. But we need to get her back. Okay. I'm gonna go now. I do have to ditch this phone. They know the number to it. Alright, you do that. Tell them to meet you about a couple meters away, or miles away then. Momo then hanging up the phone, quickly chucking the phone as far away into the forest as she can, after taking out the battery, of course. Now, this is whenever she eventually does meet up with the person who's picking her up. She was exactly where the message said she would be, and they do leave. Now, the next day, Midoriya and her are sitting down in a place. in an origiri tree hideout, beginning to talk and actually get the help of a hacker, someone who they've talked with before. The hacker is going to be getting the location of this bracelet. Since UA didn't really cheap out on these things, high-tech security, monitoring, and vital signs, along with the fact that they are actually used to tell us physical strain on your body for whenever you use your quirk. Hell, he's pretty sure that they could use these just normally during hero work. It literally can tell you your limits before you even know them. Huh. Interesting. So, about that, can you find her? Oh, yeah. Trust me, man, this is gonna be easy. I just need a few hours. You have 3. Alright. But this is gonna take time. We are talking government level security. Fine. Whatever. Midoriya walking away. And this hacker asking for a few items. He's gonna need about 10 pounds of Chinese food, a couple 2 liters, and, well, a pair of headphones, and an iPod. I don't know where that came from. I just thought about a movie. At least I think it was a movie. I don't remember very well what that was from, but I know it was funny. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.